And it has to start with people. The organizations are not going to do the change. It has to start in the moment that a person touches a shoe and the person leaves the shoe behind. All those are moments that are opportunity.
My name is Buddy Teaster, President and CEO of Souls for Souls, and host of the Repurpose podcast. Each episode offers candid conversations with business leaders and entrepreneurs who share the ups and downs, wins and challenges they faced along the way, and how they learned to overcome them. These are real stories of real people going from tailspin to tailwind, and I hope you enjoy this conversation. Today, we're going to get the chance to talk with a fascinating person, Dr. Yuly Fuentes, who is currently at MIT, and among the many things she does is lead the Footwear Collective, which is how we met. And instantly on meeting her, her enthusiasm, energy, intelligence, she's probably one of the smartest people I've ever met, it comes through. And her ability to bridge academic, business, and the not-for-profit world is spectacular. And her personal journey from Chile to the U.S. and how that's helped inform what she does now is fantastic. So I think you're going to love this conversation. I know I really did. Welcome, Yuly. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's so exciting to be here with you. It's
so
exciting.
Before we get to the rest of the conversation, I think it's always interesting to know kind of who you are, where you came from, how you got to where you are. So maybe just give us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally made in Chile.
There's a little tag in the back of your shirt that says Made in Chile?
Made in Chile, in a small city in the south called Concepcion. I've been a nerd my entire career, my entire life since I was born, curious. And because of that, that was my first love, science. So I studied biochemistry. So with that, I know a lot of materials, the synchrony of materials with the planet. And then I moved to United States. I've been in Massachusetts for about 25 years now, which is home.
Yeah.
And here I had the opportunity to do my degree in really understanding neuroscience. So my PhD is in neuroscience, human behaviors, molecular knowledge, system integrations in health. But what was really curious to me is that, so what? And when you really want to dedicate your knowledge in service of people, a piece of me was missing, which was the economical models. Like the simple question of how does people make money? When you train as a scientist, you're really knowing molecules, the world, how it works, but you don't really know how do you pay the bills, in simple. So with that curiosity, I landed in MIT. I was one of the first postdoctoral fellows in the School of Economics here. So I was, my postdoc is called TIE, which is Technology, Innovation, and Entrepreneurship. In the times that people was talking about entrepreneurship and nobody knew what it was. But it really trained me to create ecosystems and value creation around ideas and how science can change the life of people. So I talk a lot about my life based on my education, because that has shaped me of who I am. But I'm a nerd. Knowledge is it's my drive, and it's no point to have knowledge if you cannot give it back. So that has also been my motivation.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk a lot about that. But Yuly, one of the things, so you've lived some significant portion of life here in the U.S. You were born and raised and educated in Chile. How has being so firmly rooted in two different cultures helped you? And where are the places where it has maybe been a blind spot or something that kept you from understanding?
There are funny stories. The first day I landed in the United States, I kissed my landlord. Here, people doesn't kiss in the cheek. And there are aha moments on when I was born. I was born in a dictatorship structure.
Yeah.
So having not access to having not freedom when you're a child and at midnight you have to go inside the house because it's nobody can be in the street because the military power is out there. My parents protected me about that, and it was a fantasy that you would just go and play at home and nothing will happen to you. So I live it in a different reality, but I was heavily protected by the love of the family and the infrastructure around that. And then jumping into United States, I have received so much love. Like, I was educated here, and the only reason why I didn't ask me where you come from, I've been receiving a lot of goods because I was curious and I wanted to do something with my knowledge.
Yeah.
So this meritocratic opportunity of United States is pretty unique. And I always have felt blessed by that.
Yeah.
So those are the big cultural difference. I think language-wise, when I came to United States, I spoke zero English.
Really?
All I knew was, hi, nice to meet you. My name is Yuly.
And you're going into a doctorate level program with no English?
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy, huh?
How did you navigate that, Yuly?
Well, the science has a pretty universal language. So if I was going to do an experiment, I knew what I wanted to do, and I could explain it in the beginning with signs or paint it, but it also gave me the opportunity to learn a second language, which is intuition. Right? So I don't need to speak to feel the energy of a person, because you are kind of feeling the energy to know that, oh, I'm in a dangerous place or I am in the right place. And you really need to read context. I survived for a year with the sentence, that one. So when I will go to the supermarket, what do you want? That one. But the reality was that I didn't know how it's called. So I had a lot of picture dictionaries, because those are really useful to learn a second language. Duolingo wasn't a thing when I came to the United States. US was really behind in technology for cell phones. For some reason, Chile is a tech test bed for electronics. So the phones we were using here was totally behind, and I was like, what's going on here? So it's been a journey of learning, and respect for the things that are around me.
So Yuly, you said your undergraduate degree or studies were in biochemistry, and then when you came to MIT, you did neuroscience. Those sound pretty different to a rookie like me who doesn't know. Was it as big a leap as it sounds, or did you see a clear thread from one to the other?
Imagine my journey going from little molecules to a bigger system being the brain, and then a whole society and economy. So in biochemistry, you really go down to the molecular level to understand interactions and things that are happening to your human health, to the rivers. You really need to know at the molecular level what is going on. I never knew how I was going to use it, but I knew it was important for how are we made. That was kind of an obsession, like what makes things. And then in neuroscience, I did my PhD in the UMass Medical School, which is the State University of Massachusetts. And right there, it was a program of biomedical science. So it was training with the medical school to really think in neuroscience as human behaviors, human cognition, neuroscience, and molecules. So the molecules were always a point of connection for me. And I worked there in pioneer work to understand that we humans can learn even as an adult, which was a dogma in the past, right? You didn't have something that's called synaptic plasticity. You can really reshape your brain in new ways, but you need to understand systems. And that has been with me since day one. Like, one thing has a next step, but if you affect something here, you will affect other points in the system. And I didn't know that was something will help me in my career until I have been dealing with economical problems that are systemic problems. So when people say, we need to fix the system, I will say, yeah, I know about that. So it's been a training that has been led by curiosity, but also with deep questions on how do you really fix things from the root of the problem, but at the system level.
So, Yuly, you and I met through the Footwear Collective, which I'd like you to talk a little bit about. But if it seems like biochemistry to neuroscience was a leap, from neuroscience to caring about shoes, seems to like that's not a leap. That's like some other level of jump. So can you talk a little bit, because I know there's a lot in the middle that happened there, but how did you go from thinking about systems and people's behavior to really
Shoes.
focused on footwears?
Yeah, that will require 2 hours of a podcast. I don't think we have it. But the shortcut is when I came to MIT about a decade ago, I was really obsessed on the question how people adopt technology. So I was working in how the returns of philanthropic investment have to create an impact. That was my thesis. But because it was MIT, it was a lot about the impact of technology in people's life. So I was working, for example, in things like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, thinking about the impacts of their wealth in the tropical disease that they were thinking about impacting back in the day. But they didn't have metrics of, okay, great, if I give my entire wealth, how do I do that? And it was all about, well, will people adopt vaccines in order to cure a disease? 10 years later, you and I pass a pandemic, and we know what happened with that adoption, right? So adoption of technology is a big question, no matter what industry you work in. So I needed to choose an industry that is not perceived as technology, and it's not technology per se, because that will be the far distance you have to walk in order for a technology to be adopted. So I was in a school, and I had a friend who was a fashion designer, and we decided to do a competition to put together fashion designers with scientists from the lab and see if they together could create something new and if that will be adopted. That was the experiment. I knew nothing about shoes. I still don't know nothing about shoes. I knew nothing about fashion. I will barely wear jeans and a t-shirt every single day. Probably I still do. But it was a fascinating combination, because when the principle of literature for innovation is that you really need to work in intersections to create a new technology or a new invention, right? Think about many of the inventions we have today. Cybersecurity is the intersection of security and AI being a threat, right? So you start creating intersections, and you create new technologies. So fashion and tech wasn't there. And my friend posted this and in something that was called Facebook, that nobody knew what it was, and ended up being viral. And we got 61 teams participating from 47 different cities in the world.
Wow, that's an amazing response.
It was crazy, because it was going to be 10 nerds here from MIT and me. And here I was with a global competition between scientists and fashion designers from all over the world. And it was my accident to get into fashion. So that's step one a decade ago. Because of that, it was so fun. It was the first fashion show. A lot of technologies were created after that. So I kind of created a time machine of what was going to happen to the industry if you mix things. It was the first time, for example, a microbiologist was working with a fashion designer. And now if you look about fashion industry and science, you have bacteria doing pigments.
Yeah.
That was a no-brainer, but that was the intersection. So the industry really adopted me as the nerd of the family, and really humbly work and learn every single day from the industry to understand how technology could really impact fashion. And then the fashion industry started thinking, well, you know what? We're also creating a lot of emissions, water problems, pollution problems. How can technology also help us to decarbonize and really reduce our environmental impacts? And I was sitting here in MIT where I started getting phone calls from the shoe companies. And I say, okay, I think you have a problem. Like, and being who I am, I go like, why don't you come over? We do a meeting and we solve it, right? And little I knew. And the only reason why they were coming to MIT is because MIT did the first life cycle analysis of a shoe in 2010.
Okay.
So little I knew it was the most competitive industry in the planet. Little I knew that it's the most amazing industry in the planet. I mean, the people who knows how to make shoes are heroes to me. So it was kind of a moment of, I know materials, I know systems, I know economy. Why not to try it with the shoes?
That's amazing. I knew pieces of that story, but not the whole thing. So thanks for sharing that. Yuly, so we'll come back to the Footwear Collective, but so you've been focused on this problem for a long time now of thinking about footwear and systems and technology. I've been at Souls for Souls for 13 years, and the topic of sustainability and circularity has gone from not talked about at all to it's almost the first part of every conversation that we're involved in now. And I'm pretty skeptical. Like I know that there's progress being made, but it seems like it is so far away from something as complicated as a shoe is, which most of us don't know until we try to take one apart, to be talking about circularity. And so how do you square those two things where you're a nerd, you believe that there's an answer in the data and thinking about the system, and I look at how we act and what our capabilities are, and it just seems a long way off. So does that seem true to you, but still worth doing, or do you think that we're closer than it looks from the outside?
The distance is real. So when I do projects, I commit. So for me, doing the collective wasn't, I'm going to try this and let's see if it works. It was a really thoughtful process for me to say, my knowledge could contribute significantly to this conversation. And I knew I would regret if I didn't try. But to keep it real, I also knew this journey wasn't going to be a year. I met people like you that been more years than me in the game, who gave me advice really. But in that impossible mission, I also find hope that I think is being. So my findings have been is being really incestual, because the footwear people is really to footwear people, right? So they know what they don't know. They know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know. So I think we need to position this industry as a leader and as a model, but it cannot be solved from only with the footwear people, right? So that's one piece of the puzzle here, that the industry doesn't have all the players in order to build it in a new way. So, and that was what I did after the summit in MIT. I wrote the Footwear Manifesto, which ended up being like everyone is downloaded it, and this is kind of the new Bible. I was like, this is just my knowledge to you guys. I do it with all my love. Use it. But in there, I put in also an economical model. So I had worked in circularity from the point of view of my economical knowledge, right? Like there is an economical model that needs to be true in order for you to be sustainable.
Right.
So what I was really bad about in the past was sustainability was put out there as an aspiration.
And an end in its own, like that.
I want to be sustainable. Yeah. And if you think about real life, as we live life, we live it imperfect. We live it in a way that, yes, we might be one day sustainable, but we're humans. Sometimes we're not. So But when you build it as an economical model, you're really building it to build society, to build communities, to build economical models that don't exist today. And we're also living in a time where the world is changing, and the order of who makes decision is changing. So for me has been also, when you go back to the question about time, is no better opportunity to do change when the society feel that they need a change. And I think it's our responsibility to paint that change as equitable as possible, as exciting as possible, and as accountable as possible. So I know I have not all the answers, but I think it's re-questioning the problem with new questions too.
Yeah. Yuly, you said something I'd like you to talk a little bit more about. I'm not a systems person, so I don't have that background or that knowledge, but it seems like a lot of systems, the end goal, if there is a conscious one, is power and domination, right? You want to be the one that's left at the end, if you just leave many natural systems to themselves. But you said something now about changing, that what's changing right now is the order of who makes decisions. What does that mean? That's a really intriguing phrase.
Well, if you think about it, what technology has done to us as a human species is to give us different voice and really open and vocal voices, right? So in 30 years ago, a person who had a small shop, it was 1 in a million that could kind of make it. Those opportunities has been opened up more in the last 30 years of our economies. That's one piece. So you could have access to things that you didn't have. Like, look at me, I am here and I have access to people that I will have never been able to meet. Even having this podcast wouldn't have happened if I would have stayed in the moment and in my own reality. So that has changed. We can change that, and that was in my meritocratic effort, and these people will do it. So that's one piece. Power, is in the nature of winning. But I think what's happening is that we're seeing a little bit more of the cracks of power right now. And the younger generation, which is the one that I see every day here in MIT, brings me hope that they're trying to look for different voices. And they're looking for different values. They're looking for different ways to live life. And we're seeing those behaviors in the consumer space. We're seeing this in our industry, the fashion industry. We're seeing these behaviors going to vintage shops and buying secondhand. It's little, like you're not going to change an economy only with that.
Right.
And people get so excited and go like, that's just a symptom of a system. But you're also people thinking more about what they're eating. And the organic movement of food happened and now you have entire change selling you organic food. And that was an economical model that started with the thinking, I want to be more healthy. Medicine is changing. You have the doctors now thinking more in family business models than the doctor that's going to fix your kidney, the doctor who's going to beat your heart. That was the model of a specialty. Now we're going to the family doctor who needs to think about you in context of your family. So, and so on. Like there are many conversations that weren't happening in a model of full capitalism on just who has the power of buying. And the other thing is happening in the market is that the next generation of people with wealth is inheriting that money.
Right.
And they're taking it with a whole new approach, right? So the work I did 10 years ago in how do you really recapitulate philanthropic donations now is more important than ever because the generations are changing. So that's invisible to people, but it's there.
So to build on that point a little bit, Yuly, and obviously it's where Souls for Souls fits into part of this equation, is sometimes it seems like the only answers are built around capitalism or philanthropy. Like there are these extremes and there's kind of nothing in the middle.
Yeah.
My experience at Souls for Souls is like finding that fusion of those two things is really powerful, creates new opportunities and new ways to think about it. Are you seeing that as you try to solve the footwear problem, that there is a component of philanthropy or the not-for-profit community and the for-profit that have to come together, or is there going to be some new model entirely?
It's not going to be a full new model. It's going to be a model that worked in the past. I think we have spoken before, but I have this analogy with the airport.
Mm-hmm.
That when the airlines needed to decide, okay, here we go, we're going to offer a service for people to fly from city to city, they could have chosen everyone has their airport. That was capitalism, but it was impossible for each airline to have one airport. And it would have been so crazy if cities will have, now you need to go to the American airport, to get to the Delta airport. And cities came in and say, no, we need to organize this, and then these hubs. And today we have a whole market of airports that serve the airline industry, but it keeps this airline industry safe.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an economical model, and that economical model was built with what I call the different colors of money, right? So the first airport was created with the fanatic millionaire who could build and pay for a plane, and build this dream that humans will fly. And in the democratic mindset of everyone should enjoy this, and by enjoying this, we will make money. The second wave is governments coming in and say, we will pay for a piece of the infrastructure because we know the city needs this because our citizens need the airport. So for these economical models, we will have to blend capital from governments, from private capital, philanthropy. And we also, I think what I've been going deeper now with the Footwear Collective, because we're also a nonprofit, is that what is the market failures that philanthropy needs to fill in order to kick off this? Because it's always the need of philanthropic funding for that market failure. And in this idea of linear circular, personally, I think circular was a horrible name for this economical model. But
you're going to get canceled, Yuly, if you can't say that.
Let's believe, yeah. But let's believe is one circle, is many loops. The idea of understanding who pays the bill in each transaction that will make a good wealth for everyone is so important. So when you think the brands are here to produce the most beautiful shoes you could ever produce. And we want them to do that because otherwise it will be a really boring industry. So you need to preserve that. And to preserve that, you need to preserve the integrity of them in a way that they can participate in the economical model. And so on. So it's different pockets of money that will blend at the right time, independent of the stages, right? So I give you an example. We just launched the project in California with the collective and all the brands in this idea of massive collections, right? So what people doesn't know what to do with their shoes, they need to throw it away. Well, no, don't. Let's work with the Goodwill, which is an infrastructure in the United States that is right there for them. And the money is going to give jobs. So it's not longer about the shoe, it's about the job creation, which is the same thing with the part of the work you do. Then working with Homeboy, which is a company that is bringing former incarcerated people, and we're training them to be data collectors. Like I was right there with two individuals who are training in this data algorithm that we invented. It's exciting. It's a whole new job. Like in the past, it wasn't a job for data collectors of shoe data.
Right.
So on. So I think that, and then that's where I get excited because technology could create jobs, and the job creation is the part that creates the economy.
Yeah. Yuly, one of the things that I've found at Souls for Souls, and I think this is true, the examples that you just gave and lots of other not-for-profits, often they are places where different political, religious, socioeconomic, like put in your adjective, people can come together and they do work that doesn't matter all those descriptions. But when you do it in a commercial setting, and the collective is some not-for-profits, we're involved with the collective, and you just mentioned two others. But you have a lot of pretty fierce competitors who also come around the table. How do you get the sort of capitalist urge to compete and win and not share information to drop their guard a little bit so that they can make the whole thing better? That's got to be a tricky and an important part of your job.
Yeah. That was essential to build the collective. That we couldn't exist without building a system for that. So the first imagination was that system. So the simple way to do it is that when the companies work with us, I make them believe that we need to share information. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. So we act like the bank of information. So if you and I have a bank account in the same bank, we know we go and the credit cards from that bank, but I don't know how much money you have. You don't know how much money I have, but you and I trust the bank that they're doing the best with our amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
So we needed to create that bank of data. So today, the companies that join the collective, they have a data agreement that they share all the information with us, and then we use that to make decisions of what projects and when and how to execute the projects. So I call that the traffic control of the collective. And that's essential because if we really want to create the economical model, we need to create markets. And markets that are going to make sense for all the business that in today are competitors. But to me, the market will start segregating and aggregating on who needs what shoe, when, for what. And it's a little bit of gardening and really dumping in the nutrients for the right flowers to evolve. And in the same nature, some of those businesses are going to die and some of those businesses are going to stay. So it's that balance that you start creating. And for us, the other essential component is that we have to stay as neutral as we can because we don't have favorite flowers.
Right.
And that's part of being the collective action.
Right. Yuly, there was a podcast that we did recently with a guy from here in Nashville who runs the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee. And it was a terrific conversation. And he said one thing that's really struck me, and that is money follows trust.
Yeah.
So he was talking about it in a purely philanthropic setting. But how do you talk about, making people believe that you're neutral and that sharing data is good? How do you get them to trust? That's a version of what you just said, but it seems to be a little different.
That I will fully agree with that statement. I think it's trust and love. We spent a year building the trust with our companies. So one of the things we did is, you're welcome to the collective. This is hands-on. There's not going to be a press release, guys. I'm sorry, but this is not for marketing. And if you are here because of the press release, you shouldn't be here, right? So that was step one. Like, let's go deeper in the problem. Let's be honest about what is the real core problem we're trying to solve here. And let's be hopeful of, now that you're all together, imagine that you can solve it even with bigger scale, because now you are 11, not 1.
Right.
So year one was fully on trust, and was trust and also building a pipeline of ideas that they felt excited and enthusiastic about solving for. And then the year 2, which is the past year, has been execution. Like, you can promise the sun, but if you don't execute, it's just more conversations. So I think has been a learning on stay humble, but stay focused on the mission, because the execution and the failures of those actions are going to teach us way more than if you were waiting in your office waiting for paying for the penalties that you're gonna get if you don't do the work.
Right.
But as I trust them, they trust us.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be mutual, otherwise it doesn't work.
Yeah. Such a hard thing to do, especially when you've got so many different agendas, at least going in, to how to leave those at the door and find a common one. It's impressive that you've kept the group together and expanded it, right? So it's not just the first 11. You've got a lot more companies and other players at the table.
It's also the temptation to grow fast. I say to the team that we need to have the demonstration points that are going to teach us with conviction, where do we add value? Because we are not replacing other pockets of action. We are really augmenting the businesses that were there before and the businesses that are going to be there after us. So as the nonprofit, it's a little bit more being the architect of the matrix, and really be humble to let people who live in the system make their own decisions.
Yeah.
So that also requires trust on their decisions. And yes, of course, people will go off course, but I think building conviction in why people are doing what they're doing is also part of the work. I take it really seriously.
Yeah. Yuly, I could keep asking you questions for a long time, but as you said, we don't have 2 hours and there's a lot we haven't covered. But I do want to ask you two questions to close. They're sort of opposite sides of the coin. You said you're basically optimistic and in this for the long term. When you think about what the Footwear Collective has helped solve or unearth, what I don't know what the right verb is, what do you think that looks like in 5 years and 10 years? Where do you see the progress coming?
That's something we're asking ourselves right now. When I normally start project with clear KPIs, like this is the metric I want to hit in year 5 and 10. This is the first project I started with a white canvas. And the reason to do that is that instinctively I knew this problem had other angles that we didn't even touch in day one. And we needed to go deeper and listen and listen and listen and listen and listen and listen more. So I have thought more about the collective in 3 big steps. Step 1 was trust and demonstration, and we are living it. Step 2, which is coming in the future years, is strong partnerships. We're not going to build the airport without having the right partnerships to really build that infrastructure that needs to exist. And understand the win-win points of that strong partnership that will allow us to really scale. And in year 3, I think is the consolidation of the market creations, right? And I call markets, I think that's a distinction, markets that in the consumer products are the non-obvious, right? So and this particularly for the shoe, which I see it as a model, the future, we will be able to do this with coffee makers, with toys, and people is trying those in food industry. They did it. They're doing kind of the food waste. Car industry did it. They have the people who is recovering the the catalyzers of the car and the metals. So we also have to understand that we're not alone doing it. And that's kind of the piece of the partnership. Like, what are the other industries that we will partner with that will allow us to do this at scale? And in the market creation, the donations that are going to benefit human well-being. I think that's your space. Like, the idea that a shoe can change a life has to live forever.
Yeah.
The idea that the materials of a shoe could build a new product, we're in the beginning of that, and it's exciting. The idea that a company could build products for longer term, so therefore they can take advantage of more transactions. We have to do it for the right product. I don't know if people will want to overly reuse flip-flops, but probably they might want to do it for hiking well-structured boots that are going to create new transactions, renting, repairing, and building a longevity in products that deserve and could build economical models for that. So that segregation creates different avenues and different experience for people to really play and develop and then the second layer is the jobs.
Yeah,
the cobblers have been there for a reason, and I think they are persistent for a reason too. That behavior is not going away.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't have a model, right? So we need to give them an economical model that will be, what is the cobbler of 2050?
Right.
So I can give you more examples, but that's how I get excited about it, because it has so many small pockets that as a whole build opportunity for many people.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, so often we're all looking for the one big answer to the thing. And it's so often, I agree that it's all these little actions that if you isolate, you're like, that can't matter. But when you add them up times 1,000 or 1,000,000 or 1,000,000,000, it changes the whole idea of what's possible. Yeah.
And it has to start with people. The organizations are not going to do the change.
No.
It has to start in the moment that a person touches a shoe and the person leaves the shoe behind. All those are moments that are opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's exciting. It's really exciting.
All right. So I'm going to ask the last question, which is more of a personal one. You're clearly motivated and excited by the work that you've done and are doing right now. But when you think 20 years from now, when you look back at Yuly, who is however old 20 years is from now, what do you want to remember about what you're doing right now, where you are in your life, personally or professionally? But what's the thing that you want to hang on to 20 years from now?
I think it's the love I have received. I've been pleasantly surprised by receiving so much love with this work. And I don't take it for granted. And the love I'm giving back.
That's a perfect answer, Yuly. to remember that 20 years from now, that how much you were loved and love you gave back, that's a pretty awesome place to be. So thanks for ending on a perfect note. I don't think we could have scripted that better. Landed exactly right. We landed at the plane. We'll stick with your airport analogy. We landed the plane exactly right. So Yuly, thanks for your time and insight and work on this. I mean, not many of us give ourselves the time to think about the scope and the distance that we have to go. And you're helping us change that perspective, and it's really important. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Buddy. And I'm excited for you as the podcaster. It's exciting. It's perfect for you.
I have to say, I love it. You make it fun. So thanks.
I love it.
Thanks for joining us on the Repurpose Podcast with me, Buddy Teaster. You can follow the show at buddyteaster.com/podcast, and you can learn more about what we do at s4s.org. If you like this content, please share, rate, and review our episodes wherever you get your favorite podcasts. And until next time, I ask you to ask yourself, what's your why? And how will discovering that help give your life a repurpose?